Hey guys, so I decided to break down Bryan Johnson's Blueprint conversion funnel. This video is just for the marketing tactics, so if you think he's weird or you don't like him, it's irrelevant. Okay, first things first, I did hear the feedback from the last funnel breakdown that you want things to be more structured. So to start with, we have Meta ads, Google ads, and YouTube ads. And I'm gonna start with the YouTube ads because I see they're not currently running them. And maybe it didn't work, maybe it was too expensive, maybe the other channels were more lucrative, so they allocated the budget there. But ultimately, what they used to run on YouTube is no longer running. I'm still gonna take a look just so I can get a sense of how they advertised, and then I'm gonna move on to the other channels.
We took my 100 pills I take every day, and we made it into a drink and 8 pills. So everything from like ashwagandha? Yes, ashwagandha is in this. Yeah. We chose the dose.
Basically, it's user-generated style of content. Not user-generated, it's company-generated, but it feels organic and as if somebody took it as part of an event, which actually probably they did. So this is organic content. Let's take a look at this.
For the average person, is there one thing you would suggest?
So I did Blueprint for 2.5 years, no one cared. Then it just blew up. And so since it blew up, the understandable question is, how do I do this with my budget and the amount of time I have in life? And so I've actually tried to put Blueprint in an 80-20 package. That's a full.
This is a podcast style ad, and I think this is a good point to bring up here because he said that he did it for 2 years and nobody cared, and now it's blowing up. And there's a very good reason for that. His whole messaging and approach changed over time. And I want to take a step back here so that I show you. This is how the old website used to look. And I want to focus a little bit on the messaging that he used, because if you take a look at this, the year is 2500, etc. The 25th century, what would they respect? Self-destructive behavior is insane. Zeroism, those are all complicated ways to talk about longevity. And even himself, he basically says, what the hell does any of that mean? Yeah, my practical and immediate objective is goal aligning the 35 plus trillion cells that make me who I am. My mind is unauthorized to grocery shop, spontaneously order pizza, eat a dessert. In a way, you would call it intellectual, right? And then if you look at his latest content, it's funny, he doesn't take himself too seriously. So there was a big shift in the strategy, in the messaging. And the learning here is that, of course, you may want to start in a way that is attracting a very niche type of audience. Yeah, the intellectuals, the biohackers, the longevity super duper experts that could resonate with this complicated way of talking about this topic of longevity and well-being, or don't die as he calls it. But eventually, as you're going to have mass appeal, as you're going to reach a broader audience, you need to simplify and in effect dump it down so that people can resonate with it in a broader quantity. And if you take a look at the latest ads, let's take a look at Google ads, for example. They are running a lot of ads, by the way. So this is a business. Like, as much as he likes to say this is a movement, a lighter, this is a business. They're spending quite a bit of money behind it. And arguably you could say he doesn't need the money, but it's still a business. So, okay, some standard ads, but I'm gonna take a look at the video just to review this.
I know I can make this product for less than $10. That's the cost of the actual ingredients. They sell it for $99 for a single purchase. That's a lot of margin to play with, from tens of cost to 70 at your doorstep. We post that. Everything's transparent. In addition to that, our prices are actually insanely competitive. In fact, people have gone out and tried to buy each ingredient individually. They still can't buy it at a lower cost than what we've done. So we are lower cost than anything anybody can do on their own.
So this is much more clear, much more direct, much more simple in terms of the language it uses. And I don't know if you noticed that they had this product, this olive oil. It used to be called something like EV oil or something like this. Now they call it snake oil. And of course, this is a joke, right? Because they're accusing him of trying to rip people off, obviously. So again, this essentially leans into a simpler way to communicate than they had in the past. Which in my perspective is a big reason why they have a much broader reach at the moment. Taking a look at Meta, they do quite a bit. Again, like there's tons of different ads here. if you open the landing pages that they use, they are all driving to this website, which we will review separately. From an ad standpoint, it's all very classic. The copy is basically consistent across most of them. You see, like, message here is the same as the message here, is the same as the message here, same as the message here and here and here. And this, which is different, is consistent across many other ads. So they are testing, I guess, one variable at a time. In this case, they have the little text at the bottom of the headline. So that's the variable that's changing. Yeah, seems like a fairly developed ad account, but not as robust as some of the others that I've seen. So I'm going to open a few ads just so that we take a look at what they do from a creative standpoint.
I just looked what the best vitamins were in the market, and taking them every single day transformed my skin. This
Okay.
is Blueprint, and this scoop is all vitamin. Of course, I take it.
Honestly, I'm bored of UGC ads at this point. Everybody does the same thing.
In high performance training, every detail of my routine matters. That's why I use Blueprint.
Same style here.
In high performance,
Same style here. Let's see what the ad featuring Bryan says.
Years ago, I sold my company, Braintree Venmo, for $800 million. I've been spending those millions trying to reduce my speed of aging, and I just achieved a personal best, 0.64. That roughly means that for every 12 months that pass, I only age for 7.6 months. Now, an important part of this is when I wake up, the first thing I do is drink longevity mix. This is a drink that my team and I put together because I was taking over 100 pills a day. It was a lot. And we endeavored to say, can we reduce the number of pills into some liquid form?
I'm willing to bet money that their paid media performance is not that strong, because the ads they do are fairly basic, and then the landing page itself, let's review. Okay, it has OTP and it's monthly. So I'm willing to bet that the majority actually of their sales, okay, they use Klaviyo Shop, so they do A/B test if they use Shoplift. That's interesting. They're on Attentive also. Retention.com, interestingly enough. Okay, that's quite good. And they're using Loop subscriptions for their Blueprint. By the way, hey there, Loop team, if you're watching this. Okay, so this is a classic subscription widget. Klarna also to make it easy. And then you can... Personally, I don't get what the travel pack is when I look at this. It's basically like a smaller quantity that's good for traveling. I don't really get it. So right off the bat, like from a clarity standpoint, they're losing me here. I still don't get what this is, by the way. It's so funny. I've spent so much time on the page and I don't get what it is. 13 health actives to support. Maybe this will help. Okay, it's a powder, basically. It's a scoop from what I can tell. So yeah. So why does it say mix? Mix because it includes a lot of ingredients, I suppose. Okay. Thought it was like a kit of various products. 4 steps to optimal health, free protocol, don't die app, test nutrition, start today. Okay, I think this is fairly powerful now because it shows that the product is super substantiated, like from an ingredient standpoint. At the same time, and I'm not suggesting this is the case for Blueprint at all, but you can find studies that say this or that ingredient support your body's health, but what really matters is this particular product supporting people's health, like the combination of ingredients at this dose from those sources, etc. So having a study that says this ingredient does well is not the same as saying that this product does well. It's really not the same. Okay, and then they have like a bunch of other products and reviews and stuff. So honestly, like a pretty standard e-commerce store at this point. You can also shop by category. I want to take a look at the bundles, and then you can shop by benefit. So let's take a look also on the website. Number 1 supplement brand, nutrition brand, protein brand. So again, if you were there and if you saw how he communicated in the past, this is totally different, like totally different. And arguably, he was in a different direction completely from launching a brand. It was like, I'm experimenting on myself. Maybe it inspires some people, but this is what works for me. Like that was kind of the angle. And now from what I can tell, they are basically trying to sell you those products based on the health results that Bryan himself has achieved, which are impressive and so on. But it's really not the same, is it? And like, again, if you think about it, again, I like the guy, so I'm trying not to criticize, but just like from a logic standpoint, the whole point of this is measurement. That you have a certain health baseline, you do your measurements, and then you supplement what you lack. How could it be that a product like this, that has a bunch of different ingredients, how could it be a good idea for somebody? Because maybe you would benefit from 3 out of those 13 ingredients because you would have some sort of deficiency in them, or they would otherwise be helpful. But how can a product that is, like, in a nutshell, a multivitamin, right? Like, how can this be a good idea for people? And this, by the way, this criticism applies to products beyond Blueprint. It applies to any health product it applies to AG1, it applies to everything that has like a bunch of different ingredients that are good for you. No, they are only good for you if you lack them in a way, right? So unless you measure, which is what Bryan does, counterintuitively to selling this, you can't really know if this is going to be good for you. But anyway, I digress. Let's focus on the marketing. And then this is basically it in terms of the funnel. They're all driving to this product. I want to see, like, from a bestseller standpoint, yep, it is the bestseller. I thought as much. Why does the price look different? I don't get why the price is different. Let's go back from 38, but actually, I don't get why the price is different, but something to look into. Okay, and then we have those big stacks. So let's take a look at this is the product that I did remember, I guess, when I said that it had a bunch of different stuff. So you see, this is the olive oil and EV olive oil. And they used, they're calling it snake oil, as I said. So landing page basically is identical. It's only the upper section that changes. So just like I said, like from the ad standpoint, they're not as developed as they could be. I would say the same from a landing page perspective as well. What I like is that they have a whole play outside of the conversion funnel though. So I do want to stay on this a little bit more because the ads, it's not something that you haven't seen before. The website, the same. But what is really interesting about what they do is what they do with organic social media and placements, and they have like this community website. I'm gonna take a look at this separately, but from a pop-up standpoint, at least when you land on the website as of the day of recording this video, you're getting this pop-up here which says unlock your free Blueprint protocol, and it leads you to this welcome automation. Again, he has those stats because he has been measuring and calibrating what he does based on the measurements. So they will send you the classic ingredients and recipes and all of that stuff that a lot of diet-related companies do. And then those, of course, will lead to a blog post. And just so that we get a sense of blog post, you can basically find like all sorts of things here. Like if you go to food, for example, you're gonna find stuff about recipes and so on. There's like actually a recipe category that has this stuff, etc. So they will basically lead you to their blog, which is pretty standard. And then they have sales emails. In this case, they're promoting a specific category, and then they have related products, pretty standard. They're using Klaviyo. So it really is like a standard e-commerce company at this point. Interestingly enough. And then, this is what Bryan does, and it links to the corresponding products. Pretty good way to integrate him. Exact same logic here. I like how they're using text a lot. This I found interesting. I basically got clickbaited into this a few weeks ago. Actually, I decided to do the funnel breakdown largely because of this. The whole angle is that he doesn't want to run the company anymore, but actually at the end, he says the world needs it, so I will do it. And This was something that he shared on email, he shared on social media, YouTube, etc. So there is some coordination happening between all of the channels, which is great. Okay, lots of stuff here. Want to be hot and jacked. This, again, this style of communication would not be here a couple of years ago. Basically, the brand is that he doesn't take himself seriously anymore. Smart, but not takes himself seriously. Okay, so this is something that I found interesting. So they're launching something new. There's a wait list. You can sign up to the wait list. But they are very curiosity-inducing with how they talk about it. Our latest protocol addresses it. It affects a lot of men and a lot of women. It was big deal. It's been proven in studies. What is it? They don't ever tell you, and they're like, go to bed on time and I'll tell you in the morning. And they actually, this in my case, they never told me, which is a missed opportunity. Maybe they only messaged those that signed up for the waitlist, but I had no email as a follow-up to this that I could find. But the logic of this is very smart. You get people intrigued as opposed to outright announcing something. What I also found interesting is how in some cases, not in every case, but in some cases, the email is so long and so informative that it basically is the blog post. I mean, it doesn't have the video. It actually might be copy and pasted, because you see here, there's supposed to be a video embed, which is missing. So I don't know, maybe they actually do copy and paste it totally. But it's interesting because typically the logic is that you don't want to reveal too much on the email. You want people to click. So the email just gets the click and then the landing page does its work. But if you think about it, this is wrong. So what they do is the correct way to go about it. And the reason why this is wrong is because even the best structured email, even the most clickbaity of clickbaity calls to action, it's going to get what? 10% of people to click? 20% maybe? I don't know. How much can you really hope for? So everybody that doesn't click will never see this information. Whereas now, everybody that opens has the opportunity to actually consume the content. And what really matters, if you think about it, is not so much people landing on the website, it's the consumption of the information. Consuming this is what will build goodwill, and it's what will cause people to say, okay, Blueprint is actually helping me and it adds value to my life. So I will be looking forward to be receiving more emails by them, or more ads, or more videos, or whatever it is. So as silly as it looks for them to be copying and pasting this here, is a good thing to do. If you really think about it, it's a more effective way to distribute information than to have like a short clickbait email that would get a lot of people to click, but ultimately would prevent 80% of those that open the email from seeing the information. So that was pretty interesting. And then this is the landing that they use. They don't really promote it on the ads. It's more for like the existing audience. And it's a long form that's selling the expensive stack product that they have. If you really think about it, it doesn't really seem to be doing a whole lot more than the actual landing page that they use on ads. So I'm interested on why they are specifically using this custom landing page for this product. And like, if it works better, why they don't do it on the front end as well is basically my question. It's possible that they test it and this works with warmer traffic, but not cold traffic. So nonetheless, an interesting go about this. So this more or less is it. They have a regular Shopify Plus storefront. They're using classic technologies like Klaviyo, Loop, and even technologies that are a little bit more out there like retention.com. And they have their products, they have their shop by category, they have their shop by benefit, subscribe and save. And then they're sending a healthy number of emails that are mostly promoting products. So it's pretty standard for an e-commerce company. So how did this become so big becomes the question. Like, how do they have this reach? How do you know about, how do I know about them? There's so many other companies that have the exact same setup that they do, but nobody knows of them. And I think obviously the fact that the guy had his last company sold for 800 million helps. But I think what really helps, it actually goes back to the very beginning. It's that he really took the time to think through what he wants to convey in a way that would get media to write about him and would get people to talk about him. You've probably seen all of those headlines. Guy spends 2 million a year to live forever. Like, it's a very viral type of angle to have. And then you have those like obscure and to talk about this, like zeroism, for example, that the zeroth principle is that you hit a target that nobody else can see. And it's basically that if you fast forward 500 years into the future, people are going to look back and say, oh, those poor humans, they had self-destructive behavior. So like that his vision is how can he create a movement that would have the respect of those people that will come down. It's like very, I don't want to say convoluted because there's clarity in the thinking, but it's very complex. It's not something that you would just like talk to somebody randomly about and they would be like, oh, okay, I get it makes sense. It's specifically targeted towards getting attention from a niche audience, biohackers, and that would be kind of bought into those complex ideas. And it's meant to provoke and get media companies to talk about the company. And this is how it all started, in this, I guess, provocative way that like he had his concept article, he probably describes it somewhere here, that you have many selves within you, and there's the morning self that wants to eat healthy and like be nice, but there's the evening self that wants to order food and be lazy and chill out. And like he basically, yeah, there it is. He banned that self from making this, and now his day lives on autopilot based on the blueprint algorithm that he's created. So all of those are, again, provocative concepts. And it led to this happening. It led to Bryan essentially joining all of those different podcasts. I've added a few major ones here. There's obviously like way more. And at the time, he was everywhere. He would go to everybody and he would share his ideas everywhere. And all of this creates content. And suddenly, everybody knows of the guy. And anecdotally, I have had at least 3 of our clients reach out and ask us to create content reacting to his ideas. Not necessarily in a positive way, but he did become the trend in a way. He did become the guy that everybody was talking about. And I think when this happened, he probably, I'm just making assumptions now, he probably understood that for him to truly achieve what he wants, because I do believe that at the core of it, even though this is now a business, even though they make money, I do believe at the core of it is a guy that is idealistic and wants to impact the world in a positive way, because his point of, I don't need the money, it's actually very true. Like he doesn't need to sell powders and pills to you. So I do believe he drinks his own Kool-Aid, if you will. And I think he realized that even though I can get attention, even though people are talking to me, there's this barrier for people to actually do try to improve their health, because what I do is so complicated, and even the way I communicate about it is so complicated. So that's when probably people started reacting to his content and saying, oh, it's like insane, and like, is it actually good for you? Or like, is the guy crazy? Is he a vampire? Is he an idiot? And all those things. And he made the decision ultimately to keep things way simpler. And if you take a look at his social media now, it's actually a very different story than what he used to do in the past. It's still provocative. It's still him, but it's simpler. It's way more accessible for a broader audience. And I think the learning ultimately is this, that you start by targeting a very niche audience, and you can be provocative and you can do all of those things that he did, and you're going to get people talking to you and about you. But ultimately, to have mass appeal, you need to simplify. So I'm going to open like a bunch of, I'm not going to open TikTok because I don't like the platform, but I'm gonna open like a bunch of his media. You see, it's Freaky Friday. Who do I swap? Live, my near-death experience, and he's eating McDonald's. You can see it's almost everything is a joke, right? Like something catastrophic has happened, and I stayed. Like basically, he didn't sleep on time. Sparkling protein with a splash of sucralose. Again, it's funny. And there's some useful information sprinkled in here as well. But for the most part, it's funny stuff that people are gonna laugh and have a good time with.
If you lived in the year 1870,
And then from a video standpoint, it's around one a week. Those tend to be like very high quality, like with solid editing. Like some it's like a podcast format, some it's more like himself talking. I immediately noticed that much of it is focusing on the negatives. McDonald's is bad, your house is making sick, change these phone settings now, this is making your kids sick. And then there's some sharing also. This destroyed my reputation, I'm so close to messing this up. Some education, my advanced guide to better sleep, made myself younger, how weak are your bones, dark side of fame. Okay, this is a long form. And this is a guy that created a reaction video about him, calling it insane, calling what he does insane. So looks like now they're friends. And like on Instagram, it's like a similar story. Like some of it is what he posts on. Let's see if the shorts are the same. Yeah, you see the shorts are identical basically, or almost identical. So in a way, in a nutshell, the play is that he uses long form content, whether that's his own podcasts or going to other podcasts, to basically create affinity and like give people an opportunity to meet him more and like understand his ideas in more depth. And then it's a lot of short form, arguably bullshit content that will get eyeballs and potentially get people to engage and enter the brand's universe. And he's being remarkably successful at this. I also saw that he has written books. I have not read those books, so I can't really speak to how valuable, novel, or effective they are at disseminating those ideas, but there's that as well. The brand's social media is on the small side, like at least comparatively, they're sitting at 8,000 followers, but then like you look at him and he has like 2 million. So it's clearly founder-led. The next thing that I found super interesting is that if you go to the website and if you go to learn, there's this app which ultimately is very heavily described here, but ultimately it's a community play. I don't know if this works. Probably it does. In many cases, it doesn't. I should say I have seen examples of companies launching apps expecting, people need a habit tracker and then it's going to be great and we're going to survive, but then nobody engages. So I don't know if this is effective ultimately, but it is something they do. I find this interesting proof of life post. Basically, you are setting your vitals on the daily. It's possible they do this to collect data and become able to say that people that use our stack, they have this and that result. And if they don't do this, perhaps they should, because it would be a very cool play to have. And then I think they have this other website, I believe it's don'tdie.com, which I found super interesting. So they have the Blueprint website, which is the e-commerce website. They have the media company, basically it is a media company. Bryan Johnson name, you see, doesn't really say Blueprint, doesn't say anything. It's his own personal brand. And then they have the Don't Die, which is in a way the community. So there's is probably where they make the most money. This is where they get people together and they develop community with the audience. And Bryan's own handles is where they allow to learn about them. And they have all sorts of interesting stuff here. Like there's summits, there's the app, you can watch the documentary, and then you can even become a Don't Die citizen, which is basically, it's like a forum. And you can pledge and then you can become a citizen and then you have like a passport. So like, I am a citizen, this is my passport. And there's shopping opportunities here as well. You can buy merchandise, you can buy the actual products. They used to have the merchandise, I think, on the Blueprint website, but now they don't. They've separated this, which probably is a good idea because this is supposed to be a health and longevity company, and like then if they're selling you t-shirts, it kind of dilutes the message, I guess. There's the events, and then not too many close to me. There's clubs, and then super interesting. They have a lot of people in here from what I can tell. So I don't know what the commercial impact of this is, if any, but from a community building aspect, it does seem to be quite successful. So this is it in a nutshell. That's how Blueprint works as a business. The e-commerce piece is decent, but I've seen more developed ones. There's room to improve on the creative side, on the landing side, and the email side. Even though they do some smart things on emails, I don't think they're being exceptional at it, at least from a pre-purchase standpoint. I haven't actually purchased from them. But this style of email, I think it could be for any other company. There's not that much value in it ultimately, and it doesn't really make a case for why you should purchase this over something else. And so there's the e-commerce website, there's the media side of the business, which is Bryan's own handles on social media, and then ultimately there's the community, which is don'tdie.com. So it's 3 separate pillars, and one feeds each other. It's honestly something I think they didn't plan out initially, this separation. And you can tell because they had t-shirts on Blueprint, but I think they're developing their idea in the right direction to have those 3 things separate. Hope this was useful. And if you take away one thing, what I would recommend you take away is how he used to communicate when he wanted to be picked up by news media and to find his first initial niche audience that had a lot of passion and like would support him, etc. is totally different than how he communicates today after he has found product market fit and he has started to scale the business. It's totally different. Okay guys, this is George Capernaros. I want to thank you for watching all the way till the very end. As you may know, I'm the owner of Yocto. I started doing funnel breakdowns like this. I'll try to do one every week or every 2 weeks. I learn new things by doing them myself. Hopefully you do as well. If you did find value, please subscribe and make sure you share this with other people that can find it valuable too. It really helps me keep going. I do plan to make this an excellent resource for e-commerce, lifecycle marketing, and everything related to funnel. So thank you for watching, and I hope I see you in the next video as well.